You first heard the signal on a Tuesday. Not that the day mattered anymore. Every day had begun to feel the same. A slow, gray march toward a quiet end. The world had grown tired. The skies were a permanent shade of rust. The oceans were weary and withdrawn. Humanity, it seemed, was running on fumes. We had burned through our inheritance. We had exhausted our planet's patience. And now, we waited. We did not know what we were waiting for. Perhaps for a final, merciful darkness. Then came the message. It was not a shout. It was a whisper that brushed against the ear of every radio telescope on the planet. A delicate, intricate pattern of pulses. It was unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. It was structured, it was intelligent. It was a lifeline thrown into the silent well of space. The experts were baffled. They had scanned the heavens for centuries. They had found only echoes and emptiness. This was different. This was deliberate. The signal did not speak in words or numbers. It spoke in pure mathematics, the universal language of existence. It carried within its structure a blueprint, a design for a machine beyond our wildest imaginations. And it carried a promise, a new home, a new beginning among the stars. For a species that had forgotten how to dream, this was a dangerous thing. It was hope, a fragile, terrifying hope. Some called it a trick, a siren song from the void. They warned that we were children playing with cosmic fire. Others saw it as divine intervention, a miracle delivered to a fallen people. You saw it as the only choice left. The earth was groaning under the weight of our failures. The end was not a matter of if, but when. The signal was a door, and you knew, with a certainty that chilled you to the bone, that you had to walk through it. You were a nothing, a statistic, one of billions clinging to the fading light of a dying world. You were not a scientist or a soldier. You were not a leader or a visionary. You were simply you. But something in you resonated with the signal, a deep, quiet hum that seemed to echo its celestial music. When the call went out for pilgrims, for those willing to undertake the great journey, your name rose to the top. It felt less like a choice and more like a summons. The selection process was a blur. Endless tests of body and mind. Psychological evaluations that peeled back every layer of your soul. They wanted to know if you could break. They needed to know how you would bend. The journey was one way. There would be no return ticket. No tearful reunions on a restored earth. The cost of this voyage was everything. Your home, your memories, the very ground beneath your feet. You stood before the selection council. Their faces were grim. They carried the weight of the world on their shoulders. They asked you why. Why you would leave everything you had ever known. Why you would gamble your life on a promise from an unknown power. You did not give them a grand speech. You did not speak of destiny or glory. You told them the simple truth. Because there is nothing left to lose. Your answers sealed your fate. You were chosen. Leaving was the hardest part. You said goodbye to ghosts, to places that held the echoes of your laughter, to the faint outline of a life you once thought you would live. You packed no keepsakes. The journey allowed for no excess weight. Your only luggage was the hope of a species, a heavy burden for a single soul. You walked away without looking back. Looking back was a luxury you could no longer afford. You were a pilgrim now. Your journey was forward, into the great, unknown dark. The starship was named Cosmic Dawn, a name that felt both arrogant and desperate. It was humanity's final prayer, a cathedral of steel and starlight forged from the alien blueprint. It rested in a dry, orbital dock, a silent monument to a future we had been forced to imagine. The ship was immense, a spindle of impossible grace. Its hull seemed to drink the light around it. It was powered by forgotten technologies. Physics our ancestors had deemed too dangerous to explore. You walked its corridors for the first time. The air inside hummed with a strange energy, a feeling of immense, contained power. The ship felt alive. It was a fusion of human desperation and alien genius. Every surface was smooth and cool to the touch. There were no sharp edges. The lighting was soft. It mimicked the light of a sun that was not our own. It was designed to soothe, to ease the passage into the long night. The crew was a collection of strangers, each of them a pilgrim like you. Each of them had paid the same terrible price. You saw the same look in their eyes, a mixture of fierce determination and profound loss. You were a family born of necessity, a tribe of exiles bound together by a single, desperate mission. You did not know their stories. You only knew their sacrifice. That was enough. The launch was silent. There was no thunderous roar of rockets, no violent shuddering of a machine tearing itself from gravity's grasp. The cosmic dawn simply left. One moment, the scarred face of the earth filled your view portal. The next, it was a receding blue marble. A beautiful, broken memory. The ship moved with an impossible smoothness. It slipped through the fabric of space like a needle through silk. Humanity's final prayer was on its way. The time had come. The endless slumber awaited. You made your way to the cryo bay. The chamber was filled with rows of sleek, white pods. They looked like sarcophagi from a distant future. A cold mist swirled around your feet. The ship's medical officer gave you a reassuring smile. It did not quite reach his eyes. He had made this speech 100 times. He spoke of pleasant dreams, of a journey that would feel like the blink of an eye. You laid down in your designated pod. The interior was surprisingly comfortable. It molded itself to your form. A soft, female voice began a countdown from 10. It was calm. It was serene. It was the last human voice you would hear for a very long time. You closed your eyes. You thought of nothing. You let your mind become a blank slate, ready for the dreams the cold would bring. The pod hissed shut. A wave of intense cold washed over you. It was not painful. It was a deep, pervasive chill that seeped into your bones. Your heart rate slowed. Your breathing became shallow. The universe dissolved into a quiet, frozen hum. You were surrendering to the cold embrace of cryo-sleep. You were a seed, planted in the belly of a starship, waiting for a distant spring. The ship navigated the dark while you slept. It was a ghost in the vast emptiness between stars. It followed the cosmic map left by the signal. It dodged rogue planetoids. It skirted the edge of shimmering nebulae. It was a silent, tireless shepherd. It carried its flock of sleeping souls toward an unknown salvation. The centuries passed like whispers in a dream. Your mind drifted through phantom landscapes. You lived 1,000 lives in the space of a single thought. You were a pilgrim, dreaming of the dawn. Alarms, a piercing, relentless shriek. It tore you from a dream of sun-drenched fields. It was a sound that did not belong in the quiet sanctuary of your slumber, a violent awakening. Your cryopod flooded with a rush of warm, revitalizing fluid. Your muscles screamed in protest. Your mind was a fog of confusion. The lid of the pod retracted with a sharp hiss. The serene white of the cryobay was gone, replaced by the angry, flashing red of emergency lights. You stumbled out of the pod. Your legs were unsteady. Your vision swam. Others were waking around you. Cries of confusion and pain filled the air. The ship was groaning, a deep metallic stress that vibrated through the deck plates. Something was wrong. Terribly wrong. The journey had not been a blink of an eye. The ship's chronometer told a story of centuries. Centuries of silent, uninterrupted travel. Now, that peace was shattered. A voice crackled over the ship's intercom. It was the captain. His tone was strained. He was trying to sound calm, but you could hear the fear underneath. All hands to their stations. Repeat, all hands to their stations. We have an unscheduled contact. The word hung in the air. Contact. It was the one thing they had prepared for. The one thing they had prayed would never happen. Not like this. You made your way to the bridge. The corridors were filled with a sense of controlled panic. People moved with purpose, their faces pale and set. You joined the throng. A silent wave of apprehension flowing toward the heart of the ship. The view screen on the bridge was active. It showed the star-dusted black of space. But something was blocking the view. Something immense. Something that had no right to be there. The journey had been interrupted, and your life would never be the same. It hung in the void like a monument to a forgotten god, a colossal alien vessel, so vast it eclipsed the stars behind it. It was the source of the interruption, the silent Goliath that had halted your centuries-long journey. The ship was a deep, non-reflective black, a hole in the reality of space. Its design was a thing of impossible geometry. It was all sharp angles and unsettling curves. It seemed to defy the very laws of physics. This was the source of the signal. You knew it with a primal certainty. This silent, brooding giant had called you across the gulf of space. The cosmic dawn was a child's toy next to it. A tiny, fragile thing in the shadow of this immense being. There were no lights on the alien vessel, no visible weapon ports, no signs of life. It simply was. A silent, overwhelming presence. The captain stood frozen before the view screen. His knuckles were white where he gripped the command chair. No one spoke. The silence on the bridge was heavier than any sound. What do you say when you come face to face with the impossible? What protocol do you follow? The ship just sat there, waiting. It made no move. It sent no communication. It was a mountain that had appeared in your path. A new message appeared on the screen. It was not a transmission. It was a line of text that simply materialized. Pure, elegant script. It read, "You have arrived. Disembark. Come aboard." The invitation was clear. It was also a command. There was no room for negotiation. You had crossed an ocean of stars for this meeting. You had sacrificed everything. There was no turning back now. You were about to walk among giants. A shimmering bridge of light extended from the alien vessel. It connected with the main airlock of the cosmic dawn. The invitation was now a pathway, a glowing road into the heart of the unknown. You were part of the first contact team, the captain, the lead scientist, and you, the everyman, the pilgrim who represented the soul of humanity. You wore a simple environmental suit. It felt flimsy and inadequate, a paper shield against a hurricane. You stepped onto the bridge of light. The surface was solid beneath your boots. It felt like walking on solidified energy. The air around you was still. There was no sense of movement, yet the cosmic dawn was receding behind you. The alien ship loomed larger with every step. The sheer scale of it was dizzying. You felt like an ant crawling up the side of a mountain that could wake up at any moment. The entrance to the alien ship was a perfect, seamless iris. It opened without a sound. It revealed a cavernous interior. The air inside hummed with immense and ancient power. The gravity was slightly higher than you were used to. The atmosphere was breathable, richer than anything you had ever known. The light was soft and indirect. It seemed to emanate from the walls themselves. The design was organic. It was like walking inside the skeletal remains of some colossal creature. You were walking among giants. The corridors were vast. The ceiling soared to impossible heights. You saw no signs of the ship's inhabitants, no doors, no control panels, just the endless, curving walls of the silent vessel. You felt a profound sense of awe and a deep, primal fear. This was a place of power, a place that did not belong to you. You were a trespasser in a temple of the gods, and you could only pray they were merciful. You were led, not by a guide, but by an instinct, a subtle pull that drew you deeper into the ship. The path seemed to unfold before you. The very architecture of the vessel seemed to shift and reform. It was guiding you to your destination. The journey ended in a vast, circular chamber. The air here was heavy with an almost visible energy. In the center of the chamber, they waited. The beings who had called you across the cosmos. They were not what you expected. They were beings of pure light and energy, shifting, ethereal forms that defied easy description. They were the Elder Ones. The name appeared in your mind, not as a word, but as a concept, a feeling of immense age and wisdom. They did not speak with voices. They communicated directly with your thoughts. Their presence was overwhelming. It was like standing in the heart of a sun. A thought entered your mind, clear and precise. You have come far, little pilgrim. The journey has tested you. But the true test begins now. The Elder Ones presented a trial. It was not a test of strength or intelligence. It was a measure of your species' spirit, a test to see if you were worthy of the gift they offered. The chamber around you dissolved. The floor fell away. You were floating in a sea of stars. The first trial had begun. The universe swirled around you, a kaleidoscope of galaxies and nebulae. The Elder Ones did not ask you questions. They showed you visions. They showed you the birth of your world, a molten sphere cooling in the blackness of space. They showed you the first spark of life, a single cell dividing in the primordial oceans. They showed you the rise of your species, the slow, painful climb from the mud to the stars. They showed you your triumphs, the art, the music, the moments of selfless love and sacrifice. They showed you your failures, the wars, the hatred, the casual cruelty you inflicted upon each other and your world. It was a brutal, honest accounting of your history, a mirror held up to the soul of humanity. You could not look away. You could not deny the truth of what you were shown. There was great beauty, and there was great ugliness. The final vision was of your dying earth, a world bled dry, a people lost in despair. The Elder Ones wanted to know if you felt regret, if you felt shame. You did. The sorrow was a physical weight in your chest, but you also felt something else, a stubborn, defiant pride. You had failed. You had fallen, but you had not given up. You had built the cosmic dawn. You had crossed the void. You were still fighting. Your answer was not a word. It was a feeling, a projection of your will. You acknowledged your failures. You accepted your flaws, but you refused to be defined by them. You were more than your mistakes. The vision faded. You were back in the chamber. The Elder Ones seemed to approve. Their light pulsed with a gentle warmth. Your spirit is strong. It is flawed, but it is not broken. You are worthy. The first trial was over, but a far greater challenge was about to be revealed. The vision returned, but this was not a vision of the past. It was a glimpse of the future. The Elder Ones showed you why they had summoned you. They showed you a shadow moving between the galaxies, a great devourer, a force of cosmic hunger that consumed suns and worlds. It was not a creature of flesh and blood. It was a wave of pure negation, a creeping entropy that erased everything it touched. You watched in horror as it swarmed over entire star systems. Suns winked out of existence. Planets crumbled into dust. It was a silence that screamed, a darkness that was absolute. It was the end of all things. The Elder Ones called it the Void Swarm. It was ancient. It was relentless. And it was coming. It moved slowly, but it was inevitable. A tide of oblivion that would one day wash over every corner of the universe. The vision showed you its path. It was headed for the Milky Way. It would arrive in a few thousand years, a blink of an eye in cosmic time. The Elder Ones had been watching it for eons. They were powerful, but they were not infinite. They could not stop it alone. They had been searching for allies, for species with the will to fight, for pilgrims willing to stand against the coming night. This was the reason for the signal, the reason for your journey. It was not just about saving humanity. It was about saving everything. The Elder Ones were not offering you a new home out of charity. They were recruiting you. They were offering you a chance to become something more, something greater. The vision ended. The weight of what you had seen settled upon you. It was a burden almost too great to bear. You had come seeking salvation. You had found a war. The Elder Ones offered you a gift, the knowledge to reshape reality itself. It was the power they used to build their ships, to traverse the cosmos, to hold back the Void Swarm. They called it star science, the ability to manipulate the fundamental forces of the universe, to weave space and time like thread. It was a power beyond the comprehension of your species, a gift of the gods. A sphere of brilliant white light floated before you. It pulsed with unimaginable energy. This was the gift, the sum total of their knowledge, the key to your evolution. All you had to do was accept it. The Elder Ones warned you. This power was a dangerous tool. In the right hands, it could create wonders. In the wrong hands, it could unmake reality. The choice to accept it would change your species forever. You reached out your hand. Your fingers trembled. You could feel the immense power radiating from the sphere. It was terrifying. It was beautiful. It was the future. You hesitated for a heartbeat. The faces of your crew flashed through your mind. The image of your dying Earth. The creeping horror of the Void Swarm. There was no choice, not really. You had to accept. You had to take this power and forge it into a weapon, a shield. You touched the sphere. The universe exploded in your mind. It was not a sound or a light. It was a feeling of pure, undiluted knowledge. The secrets of creation poured into your consciousness. You saw the universe as a symphony of vibrating strings. You understood the elegant dance of gravity and light. You were filled with a power so vast, it threatened to tear you apart. The gift of stars was yours. But it had come at a price you could not yet comprehend. You returned to the cosmic dawn, a changed being. The knowledge of the Elder Ones burned within you. You could feel the ship around you in a new way. You could sense the flow of energy through its systems. You could feel the subtle warp of space-time as it moved. You tried to explain what had happened, to describe the Elder Ones, the Void Swarm, the gift of star science. The words felt clumsy and inadequate. How do you describe the indescribable? Doubt began to take root among the crew. The gift was too much, too sudden. You had left Earth as human. Now, you were something else. A faction, led by a man named Kale, voiced their fears. Kyle was your second in command. A good man, a practical man. He had been a skeptic from the beginning. He saw the alien gift not as a salvation, but as a curse, a poison that would corrupt the soul of humanity. He argued that you had been deceived, that the Elder Ones were not benevolent gods. They were puppet masters, using humanity as pawns in their cosmic game. He pointed to the changes in you, the new, unsettling light in your eyes, the way you spoke of stars and reality as if they were clay in your hands. He feared that you were losing your humanity, that the gift would turn you into a monster. His words found fertile ground. The crew was already on edge. They were far from home. They had faced the unknown, and it had shaken them to their core. Kyle offered them a simple, comforting narrative, one of fear and mistrust. It was easier to believe in a hidden evil than an incomprehensible good. The seeds of dissent were sown. A line was being drawn in the sand. A choice was coming, one that would tear your small band of survivors apart. The crew of the Cosmic Dawn was now divided. Two factions had formed, those who trusted you and the Elder Ones, and those who followed Kyle. The ship, once a symbol of unity, had become a battleground of ideologies. The tension was a thick, suffocating blanket. Old friendships frayed. New alliances were forged in hushed whispers. You had to choose a path for your people. But both paths led to ruin. Do you embrace the gift? Do you use the power of star science to transform humanity? To become the warriors the Elder Ones need you to be? This path leads to an unknown future. A future where humanity might lose its very soul. A future where you become something alien, something unrecognizable. But it is the only path that offers a chance to fight the Void Swarm, the only path that offers survival. Or do you listen to Kale? Do you reject the gift? Do you try to flee? To find a quiet corner of the galaxy and hide? This path preserves your humanity. It keeps you true to what you were. But it is a path of denial, a path that leads to certain doom. The Void Swarm is coming. Hiding is not a solution. It is merely a delay of the inevitable. You would be choosing a slow, quiet death over a fighting chance. You stood on the bridge of the Cosmic Dawn. The starfield on the view screen was a silent, impartial observer. You could feel the two factions watching you, waiting for your decision. You were their leader, their pilgrim, the one who had walked among the giants. The choice was yours, a fork in destiny, and the fate of humanity rested on your shoulders. You closed your eyes. You reached for the power within you, and you made your choice. Conflict erupted. Your decision to embrace the gift was the spark that ignited the flame. Kale and his followers refused to accept it. They saw it as a betrayal, a surrender of your species' identity. They moved to seize control of the ship, to sever the connection with the Elder Ones. The war for tomorrow had begun, not with a bang, but with the quiet, determined clicks of weapons being armed. The corridors of the Cosmic Dawn became a battlefield. Pilgrim fought against pilgrim, brother against brother. The fighting was close and brutal. There was no glory, no grand spectacle, just the grim reality of a family tearing itself apart. You did not want this. You had begged Kale to see reason, but his fear had deafened him. He truly believed he was saving humanity from a fate worse than death. You used your new abilities not to harm, but to disable. You wove fields of kinetic energy to stop projectiles. You bent light to create disorienting illusions. You manipulated the ship's internal gravity to disarm your opponents. You were more powerful than any of them. But you held back. You could not bring yourself to kill the very people you were trying to save. This was a battle for the soul of your species, and you would not win it through bloodshed. The final confrontation took place on the bridge. Kyle held the captain hostage. His face was a mask of desperate conviction. He threatened to destroy the ship's main reactor, to end the journey for everyone. He saw it as a mercy, a way to prevent the monstrous future you had chosen. He looked at you, his eyes filled with a terrible sadness. "Look what they've made you," he whispered. "We are not gods. We are men." The struggle ended. A decision had been forged in the crucible of conflict. You managed to subdue Kyle without taking his life. The rebellion was over. The cost had been high. The unity of your people was shattered. But the path forward was now clear. There could be no more doubt, no more hesitation. The threat of the Void Swarm was too great. Humanity had to change. It had to evolve. You gathered the remaining crew. Their faces were weary and stained with the sorrow of the conflict. You did not offer them empty words of comfort. You offered them a purpose. You showed them the vision of the Void Swarm. You made them understand the stakes. You were no longer just survivors. You were soldiers in a war for the fate of the galaxy. With the power of star science, you began to reshape the cosmic dawn. The ship was no longer just a vessel. It became a weapon, a forge, a crucible for the birth of a new humanity. You set a course, not for a new home, not for a peaceful refuge. You set a course toward the approaching darkness. You were going to meet the enemy head on. You were going to ignite a new sun in the face of the endless night. Humanity was no longer a scattered, dying species. You were no longer just pilgrims. You had been tested. You had been broken. And you had been reforged. The gift of the Elder, ones flowed through you. The knowledge of star science was your sword and your shield. You were the first of a new generation, a people born of starlight and sacrifice. You stood on the bridge of your transformed ship. The cosmic dawn was a beacon of impossible light in the dark void. You were on the front lines of a cosmic war. The Void Swarm was a creeping stain on the horizon, a promise of oblivion. But now, there was a light to meet it, a defiant spark against the encroaching darkness. You were the guardians of the threshold. The Elder, ones watched from a distance. They had given you the tools. They had shown you the enemy. The rest was up to you. The fate of countless worlds rested on your shoulders. It was a terrifying burden. But you did not carry it alone. You were a people united by a single, desperate purpose. You were the shield against the coming night. You were the guardians at the dawn of a new age. And you were ready.